Hi there, this is Anirvan, CEO of Fifth Chrome. Hope you guys are staying healthy and safe in whatever part of the world you're in. Welcome to another episode of In Conversation with Industry Experts. One of the biggest challenges that is facing most of the businesses today is how to consistently and constantly create value for their customers. With the current crisis of COVID-19, this has become amplified multiple folds and businesses are struggling to grow and create value for the customers. One of the ways is digital innovation, where companies that have taken advantage of digital innovation are able to successfully come out of this crisis and has been seen rise in their revenue. This is a very, very interesting topic, but many companies would still struggle with that because while they understand digital technology, they don't necessarily know how to go about it, and more importantly, do it in a very short time that will help them increase their revenue within a matter of months instead of years. This is the area that is the topic for today, and we're joined by one of the industry experts, Adi Mazor Kario. Adi, welcome to the show.
Hi, how are you? Great to see you again.
Absolutely. So for our viewers, why don't we start with an introduction of what you've been up to in the last whatever number of years?
Yeah. So I'll tell you what I've been doing. I'm an innovation expert and a product and UX expert for so many years. And I typically work with tech companies who want to create new business opportunities in a changing market because, you have to innovate all the time in order to catch up. And I help them deliver innovative, successful products and get higher ROI from a change in what's going on in the world. And right now we're in the midst of a change. And in the last few months, I've been doing a change in what I want to offer because I see that the needs of the companies are different. And I want to help them understand how can they get opportunities from these change and what is this changing market doing and what are the concepts changing in their mindset of their clients in order to create new value, new products, and to grow from this crisis. So that's what I've been doing. And in the last 20 years, I've been working with so many companies all over the world. I'm part of the Google Accelerator program. So I work worldwide with accelerator in startups and big companies, small companies. I've done work with the IBM and Google and Intel with work which is bigger, and even Israel is, I'm from Israel, by the way, and Israel is full of startups. So I work with so many startups, and now I'm taking what I know in order to help in this kind of a mindset with bigger companies. Because startups, they're always working in a crisis in a sense, because they're always cursed in resources. It always has to be now. It's always changing. And it's like a roller coaster to work in a startup. So the same mindset of embracing uncertainty in a sense should go to what other companies are tackling. So I'm helping with that.
Wow, that's an extended experience with large companies, marquee companies like Google, IBM, and Intel, and on the other side, the startup scenario. That's excellent. Yeah. That's excellent.
It's always growing. You can learn from so many other projects. I always like to learn with different companies, different projects, different countries. And you learn all the time, how can you make the processes better? How can you make it easier? How can you fail and learn from it and do something better? So I see that many companies are finding it hard to innovate because they find it risky in many cases. But as I see it, innovation is de-risking your chance of losing the battle with the competition, because we all know everything is changing and the market is changing. Surely right now it's changing. And you need to go with the wind. You need to change with the market's change, or you wouldn't be here.
Very good. So let's hear some examples that you're proud of where you've done real breakthrough digital innovation, whether it's a startup or one of the larger companies.
Yeah, so for a startup, it's really easy because they start with an idea and what they imagine it would be. So the process is surely should be disruptive, because the startup, if he's doing the same value as a big company, he will probably lose. They have more resources, knowledge, connection, so forth. So it has to be something different, and it has to answer a need. So startups are really aware of the needs of their end clients, customer, users, whatever. And big companies, because they are big and sometimes they can relax, they have a product for 15, 10 years, for them it's much harder. So it's a bigger challenge for them. So let's say I work with a company called Zim, and they are doing marine transport. They have these big ships. And like 10, 15 years ago, the owners of the fleet, of the ship fleets were like very, very rich, and they had all the power. And they say, okay, we don't need to change. We have the big ships. And the market has changed because people would not be willing to wait for the cargo or to do all the bureaucracy related to that, and the connection between the ships and the taking it in trucks and putting that into the business. So there are so many businesses related to that, and the ship companies said, okay, we have enough, we are very stable, we're not doing anything else. So service providers started to go into this domain, and they made a big change. And now what you see, it's like it's vice versa. So the ship owners are working for the service provider. So the service provider have done so many other things for the end clients and help them and know exactly when they'll get the cargo, what's going on, if there is a delay, how can they make like the trucks going from the ships to their businesses. So there are so many things related to doing marine transport that the ship companies said, okay, we don't need that. And now they are very, very far behind. And when I started working with them, they said, okay, this is the situation. We're far behind. We need to catch up because we don't have the applications. We don't have any, like the technology is not good enough as the service provider, which are so much bigger right now. And what can we do? So I help them understand who are they creating for. So who are these people? In the beginning, they had only very big, a large corporation doing ship transport. But right now, like everybody's doing like eBay shippers, so forth. So it's so many people using transport overseas. So who are these people? They could be a very small business that they just need half of a cargo just for their like electric facility for their clients, so forth. So it doesn't have to be a big factory for you as a client. And because they have the mindset of working with big companies, all their processes were very, very hard to handle. You know, like all the you need to sign so many signatures in order to get to work with them, so forth. So we created something that enabled at least to monitor and to see how the ships are coming and when will I get the shipment and when can I take it, and I can do it digitally. I don't have to come and take it and bring this certificate to the port, so forth. So they're trying to catch and they're behind, but at least they're having changes. Although I see it's really hard for them. But they're doing that, and I help them do things better for their end clients, and they can start going back to what they had like 10 years ago, I hope.
Value creation, how would you describe it for a layperson?
So I would say that there are opportunities outside for the business, and you could do so many things to catch up with the changing market. You could go and you could see what the startups are doing and maybe purchase them or merge them or do a partnership or do something like that. Or you could say, I want to create my own value within the company, because big companies has so many like advantages and strength over smaller companies. And sometimes they're forgetting. They have the partners, they have the knowledge, they have the resources, they have the talents, they have the expertise, they understand the domain. And most importantly, they have the connection with the clients. So for a small company or a startup to start to talk to some of these clients, it's maybe in B2C, it's not always but B2B for sure. It's really hard to get to the clients and really understand, and you already have a relationship with them. Like, you can just imagine a company working with hospitals, working with banks, working with insurance agencies, so forth. It's like big corporations. And for a startup to get in even to a pilot with them, it's so hard. So they have these like assets. How can they create new value and new business value for these partners and clients? And for that, you need to understand what are the needs and to create a new product, a new service, something that would and make your business grow, and your portfolio will be more diverse, not only what you have right now that might change. You have more and more initiatives within your company. So you're growing the value that you offer your end clients by understanding their needs and what exactly could be done with them. And it's really, really important because as we see, the market is changing, and now it's really fast changing. And if you don't do things which will reduce your risk of failure, let's just imagine what happens in the entertainment sector, in traveling sectors, in education. So many domains are really trying to find themselves again. And if they don't change and find new types of new needs they can answer, they will stay behind, and in the end they will not keep up with the change and with the market. So they have to do it.
I think value creation with co-creation is a great example, and I'm sure you've seen that interview. For our viewers, we actually did an interview around co-creation with one of our mutual friends, Nico Eggert, a few weeks back. So if you haven't watched it, watch it. You'll be able to get a good idea. What else?
I see it as you have this kind of a very big change in the it's a crisis for many, but for me, as I see it, the world is just cracking up to a different perspective. And then you have so many new opportunities. So first you need to understand what are the opportunities, what are the changes that currently are happening in the world that might change your business and might change your clients' behavior, might change your market. So that's it could be an advantage. It could be you could say, I don't know what's going on. And you could say, I'm curious to know what could be done here, because every crisis is an opportunity. So first you need to understand the opportunities. So that's first. Second, you need to understand your strengths. So you as a company, as I said, you have so many strengths, and you just go and leverage what you can within the context of what you want to achieve with the opportunity. Let's say that you're a tourist company and you understand that people are not flying anymore, but they're staying at home, but they want to go and travel within their country, but they want to have experiences which are like traveling, so forth. So what could you offer them? You have the market needs, you have the opportunity, you have your strength, and how can you have some kind of assumption what could be done? That there are so many ideas you can grow from there. And then you can just go and test it, check it, talk to users, understand them, what are their needs. So you can go from this aspect in order to create your assumption and really create something. You can create a product based on what you know, who are the users, what are their needs, what is missing in the industry, who are the competitors that you currently have and you might have in this future initiative. And from there, we're going through a journey together. I'm helping companies to go through this journey of understanding what is the value. And we can have so many tools for that. We have user journey, and we have personas, and we have business model canvas, and so many other tools we can use in order to understand that. And from there, we're going to go create something. It could be a prototype, it could be a landing page, it could be something very wireframes, it could be very low tech prototype, and then we test it. And once we test it, it's more than a gut feeling. Many companies, they have the big management, the C-level, and they have a gut feeling that something might be a good idea. And it's not enough. You need all the tools that we currently know about innovation in order to do it right. So you test it out, and then you decide it could be a good idea, and you have to change very minor things in order to proceed and maybe grow it. It could be a very bad idea if you test it and you say, okay, I learned this and this and this. From now on, I can learn and take this learning and do something else. Or you could say, if I pivot and change this aspect of the value proposition, or this aspect of the business, I can make much more of it. So it's like growing through the process and learning, which is the most important part, as I said. And companies could really do it quite, I would say, systematically. It's not easily, but systematically. Once they know the system, they can do it again and again and again. And let's say in every VC, that you have tens of startups, and the majority of them will not succeed. But if you're doing it again and again, you'll probably have a very good initiative and a good project and a good product with you. So maybe 1 out of 5 or 1 out of 10 or it depends, right? But you could have the future of your company from this understanding.
So one of the areas that we find where even when I consult with businesses is the right timing, when to embark on something, a value creation journey, or when to engage experts, because especially for SMEs and mid-market companies, this has been a constant challenge. What would you say is a good starting point?
I believe that innovation should be done. It's like insurance. You pay when you don't need it. You don't need to pay after the accident, right? So I see innovation as something that helps you grow with the changing market, with the changing world, actually. But let's say you want to postpone it and you say, okay, we're very good. We have our assets, we have our products, we have our clients, we're making money. I don't need to change anything because I think we're very stable, right? And many companies say, okay, it sounds nice to do innovation, but it's a bit risky. We don't know what's the ROI. When will we get the money back? Will it really pay off? What do we do here? So they really postpone it. But currently we see that in so many areas, you cannot really postpone it. Like it's like we're now after the accident doing the insurance, right? So, and I guess that many companies are really, because they don't know, it's an unknown situation, they freeze. Like as human beings, when there is an unknown situation, it's very stressful, and we could do one of 3 things, flight, fright, or freeze. Okay, when we are very stressful of the unknown as a person, we, like all the human beings, are built to do one of these. Most of them will fly away. Like, I'm not here, it's too much for me. And I understand leaders that decide, like, I'm not doing anything, like I'm freezing, I'm not doing anything. If I could just go from here for like a few months, and I hope everything will go back to normal. But as I see it, if you really want to survive, you need to understand that the situation is different. And even if it will go back like 80%, it will not be 100% from now on. Even if for the next year or 2, you will not see any influence, you will see it after that, because the markets are changing in so many aspects, and the behavior of people is changing so fast. In a certain degree, you will hear that. And it's in additional to what that there are startups, and China is growing, and the US startups are really big, and the scene in Israel is really big, and maybe like other competitors that you have in your own company, in your own domain. So you're always in a competition, even if you're the biggest one. It doesn't make, like, it's not sure that you'll stay there number one. And we know that the longevity of companies are getting shorter and shorter. Like in the 60s, I think it was like 60 years. And then it grew down and down. It's like now in an average company is like 10 years, even if it was very successful, because it's all really accelerated. The change is so accelerating. So if you ask me when is a good time to innovate, I would say now. That's a good time to understand that you should innovate, and you should. And many people think, yeah, we don't have the budget for it. And I don't think it's always the budget. If you're taking Accenture, it's the budget, okay? But you don't have to take them. And if you're asking me, like, you're paying a company which is very expensive, it has a brand, and what they're aimed for is to do more or less what you have, because they're making more money if you're getting paid, okay? I think that if you're learning entrepreneurship and innovation, you need to take someone who is understanding innovation, and not someone with a tie that gets paid each week for his work, right? So I think that companies understand that they need to innovate, and they understand that it could be not that expensive and not that complex for them. And then they should do it, and not like wait.
Anything else would you want to add to that mix of arguments?
I think that companies sometimes think it's like a magic, like I have an idea and then it will work. And even if you go through a process, and it doesn't matter what is the exact process, but let's say you have so many ideas and you grow some of them and you have lots of potential for value. Let's say you have like five for the 10 projects. Okay, let's say you have that. In many cases, these projects will go and yeah, it's really nice. And they go into their SharePoint folder. They don't do anything with it. And it's okay. It's not like every idea should get the funding and be successful. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that in many cases, when you do have a good idea, that you validate it and you're sure that it could make money, and the company knows that there is a big potential there, still they're very reluctant to do something about it. Because, like it's so complex in big companies, and they're not sure, and they have their own portfolio per department, and the management is different, and what the management understand about innovation is different, and how long should it take until you see profits from it is different. So it's really hard to understand how to do it right. And it's risky to do any kind of initiative which is new for you. So if you're new to innovation, that's it's accepted as risky, although it's the other way around as I see it. So for me to just, other than the process, I'm teaching them some of the elements they need to know, to overcome obstacles and to really reinvent the business value for the company. Not like they have a good idea. How do they sell it to the C-level? Do they know how to do like storytelling and pitching? And do they know how to convince that this is a good idea that we should try out? And many companies, when they trying to innovate, they say, okay, maybe it's like too much to go to test it with our clients. Maybe it will hurt our brand, or maybe it will be too much for IIT and R&D. Maybe it's like too costly for us. Or maybe in marketing, they say, okay, we could do that, but it's not, I'm not sure. And sales will say we're cannibalizing our current proposition. So maybe it's not good for us. So there are so many questions on so many parts of the company that you need to understand. And sometimes it's not enough to have a short process. It takes longer and longer, and they need further guidance in order to create something which is valid, and they really go about with it. It's not enough to have a good idea and to test it and then say, okay, that's my good idea. I want to sell it to the C-level or to the VC, which is internal, whatever. And it's hard. Innovation is like, it's a complex process. That's what I say.
What kind of value would you give to education and training?
I think it's very important to have the tools and the skills. What I see is like, what I do is not like, for me, it's not education. It's really accelerating what you have. It's part, like, it's an accelerator. But in general, if you don't understand the essence of innovation and what does that mean, you can have so many people saying, what is innovation? Sometimes they think it's only, let's have this system, we'll change these old systems and bring the new system, then that's enough. But it's not enough, because people are using these systems, and it needs to be effective, and it needs to be profitable, and needs to be successful in your company. It's not enough just to take a technology and put it. You need to utilize it in the best you can, right? And sometimes people think that innovation is more like a management skills. Just teach the management how to do strategy from this point of view. Or sometimes people think it's more like an HR thing, or we're going to teach them the skills. But for me, because, Israelis are very like, we're thinking less, doing more. So for me, innovation is doing. You need to do, you need to really try things out and learn from it. It's experimentation in the real world. And that's why sometimes when people say, yeah, we're working on this business model canvas for 2 months, for me, it's like, it's not enough, because what you learn from it is only a discussion, which is very important, but you didn't really learn in the real life, what does that mean, and getting the insights. And even failing and learning from your failure, which is the right process to learn. Like, when we were kids, we started to walk, we always fell down, and it was part of the process of learning to walk. And we didn't think, wow, I fell down, I will never come up again, I'm staying on the floor right now, right? the same thing should be in companies. They need to understand that in many cases, they have to fail in order to learn. It's part of the process. And when you're trying things out, which are new and disruptive and could have very big impact and value on your profits, you need to know that sometimes you can have this potential and it will grow, and you could have a same potential and it will really fail. And the question is, what do you do while failing? Because you can learn from your failures, and that's the secret of good innovation. In order to really understand what innovation is, it's a process of experimentation again and again, and getting better all the time until you have something which is like, yeah, it's really a good idea. Like, I think like 2 weeks ago, I took part in there was this innovation summit online. It's all online right now. And before me, there was a VP of innovation from Amazon, and he talked about the processes of innovation there, which is, they are very innovative, everybody knows, and they're growing. And he said about Amazon Prime, you know, like you could pay them a subscription and then you'll get it like within 24 hours. Anything you buy, you get it in 24 hours, which is very good. Like, people love it, but they didn't know if it will work in long run, because the logistics is very expensive. So they didn't know if it will work. Will it be worth it for the company to have this program? Because they know for sure they're gonna pay a lot for the logistics, you know, to get to people in 24 hours. And they said, okay, we know what is this potential. We could fail, we could grow, but we're taking this, we're betting on it. And it's like one of their best decision ever. You know, there are like so many people are using Prime for surely now, but in general in the US, and they love the fact that they're getting things so fast and it's so like easy, and they want to do business with Amazon. Amazon is placing their clients above all. So they call it customer obsession is one of their core values. And for them, they didn't know it when they decided to do it. And he said, we thought about it. Will it be too expensive to get things in 24 hours? Is it like too expensive? But in the long run, when you see what happened in like all over the US, and everything is FDA, like delivered by Amazon. And even if you're not selling as an Amazon seller, it's like it's changed all. I wouldn't say all, because they have so many additional initiatives, but it changed a lot in their value. So they're offering more value, more products, more services to their clients all the time, innovating and doing more and more. And you can learn a lot from them. And other, like I worked with Google so many times, and you can see the way they are working is very like, we're striving to have more products, more services, and giving more value to our clients. This is what we want to do. It's the way of growing. This is how we grow. We don't have one product and just deliver it to different people. We're a tech company, so it's obvious we can deliver it worldwide. So how can we grow with new value, with new services, with new products? And this is how they grow about.
You've highlighted a very important point, which I see compared to conventional businesses, let's say of the 20th century versus the way tech businesses and also some of the digital immigrant businesses are treating this. In the past, we used to see a lot more creation of business cases, a lot more sort of ROIs, but now it's people are betting on ideas compared to creating expensive ROIs and expensive business cases. So I think that's absolutely brilliant example that you used. Let's talk about the training courses. You've created a new program. I think it's called Invincible Innovation Program.
So the Invincible Innovation Program was born with COVID-19. So I knew that I'm going to do a change. I knew like I like growing, and I have few businesses, and I always have challenges, and I love tackling new things in my career. So always growing. And I knew I'm going to do something, but I was not sure exactly how would it be, because I've been doing so many years design and product and design thinking and design sprints and business model canvas, so forth. I've been doing that for long years. And then I said, okay, what do I really want to do? It's like, it's a kind of a pivot for COVID-19. And I said, okay, I want to help companies reinvent their business value in order to survive COVID-19. And how can I do that? What do they need? And what are my expertise is how can they understand what's going on out there? The market is changing, clients is changing. How can we take that with your strength and we understanding your end clients and maybe customers or partners, and understanding that, and from there going to this journey? Because if they don't understand the change in the market and the change in the behavior and the needs of the customers that are changing, it's like we have lots of ideas and it's really nice, but it's not connected to the value that you can get and the opportunities open out there. So for me, this is what I want to do. So I created this 5 weeks program for innovation leaders that we go and understand their own domain and understand what is the opportunities open right now with COVID-19 for their markets. What does that mean? What is the change and what does it mean for them? And from there, we're going and creating who are we answering for? What are their needs? What do they really want? How can we answer that? We're creating this value proposition. We're creating a prototype. We're validating, and we have a validated option. Like, this is a product we can really build from. And we know how to present it to other people. So for me, I know that innovation is not for one people, but I'm creating that for people from all over the world, for companies to come and to co-create together. So it's not the same company. Each company will bring 1, 2, or 3 people to the program, and I'm taking like only up to 15 people because I want to really escort them. And I don't see it as a training or education because I want a tangible result. It's not, it's for me, it's not really interesting just to teach. Although I taught like in academy and I've done so many workshops and training all over the world. But for me, what's really interesting is to really find this potential and use it for each company and to see what that means for their ROI, for their value, for their clients, and for how can they grow from this specific option, from this specific opportunity. So for me, the process should be we meet and we do it all together. So it's like we're meeting for a few hours live, we're talking, I'm teaching them what should they do. They get an exercise, then we meet in the, like for group coaching. And then each week we're going to progress. Within like 5 weeks, we're gonna have a result. And you get 2 things. One is it's a great potential to do business differently. And it's a great potential for the company to really examine, could we grow this into a full-fledged product, which is a very, very big thing for a company right now. And the second thing is that you know how a startup is working. And once you really know that and you can incorporate that into your processes, it's like it's worth much more than that, because you can iterate again and again and again until you get exactly what you want. And sometimes I escort them after the program in order to really understand, like in the real life, when I do it not online and not in a virtual way, when I do it offline with people, in really live people. Sometimes we're doing this process, and afterwards I'm taking them from really to go and to understand with the management, to understand what could be done, what are the obstacles, how can we overcome them, how can we really reinvent the business model as a whole and to create something new for a company. So sometimes 5 weeks is like, it's a kickoff, but it's a very big leap you can do within like 5 weeks. And sometimes there are people that are innovating like half a day or a day or 2 in a week. So I'm trying to incorporate that into the program, and they come, we're doing this together. They're learning from their peers. So they're collaborating and learning from other companies and other peers, what they're tackling, what are the problems that they're having, and understanding from each other. And together they're creating for each company the best optimal product they could have. And then they go on with that.
So within 5 weeks, you are essentially kind of guaranteeing that the people who come and join your course or your training or your
program,
hand-holding program, they'll get like an MVP at the end of the session?
Yeah, they get a validated MVP. So they are creating an MVP and they test it with real users. So they have results. It's not enough to have an MVP, which is really nice and it looks good. You need to test it with real users. If you don't test it, You could say, okay, I know, like I work with so many companies saying, yeah, we know more or less what's going to be. We know we know what they need. We talked to them in the beginning, and it's more or less what we need, so it's okay. No, it's not okay. You have to test it. You have to validate your ideas. You have to really check it with the market. And this is how we de-risk the process. Because without it, it's like, it's great that you have ideas, and it's great, it could look really a beautiful application afterwards, or a mobile application, or I don't know, whatever you're creating, but is it any good? And the question is always like trying to think, is like your assumptions, are you right? These assumptions are only assumptions. You want to check it out. So let's say that you do create this MVP or some kind of a prototype just to check. It's not a full product. You don't develop it. It's like a prototype, like it's a demo. You want to test it, and you go and see what really is understood from it. It's not the same, right? And then you can say, okay, we had this idea, we created something based on the tangibles, based on the idea, and we checked it. And we think it's a good direction, or we can change it. Like we learned from this testing or usability testing or research whatsoever, we learned that this is good, but this is something that we can change. So let's change it and check it again. And once it's really more mature and you know that you can really grow it, and you know, no startup grew in 5 weeks. It never happens. But they know the process, how to do it. So I take them like hand by hand, step by step, you know, to get to the solution. Because for me, you know, if it's not tangible, if it's not something that, yeah, we tried it and we have something, it's like, it's really only like general education, or it's not really interesting for me just to, you know, to talk about what could be done. I'm very like practical person. Like, let's do it.
I think that would be a great program. When are you starting this program?
So I plan to do it like on the 20th of July, which is like in a month from now. Maybe I'll move it about because I know that many people are going to summer vacation. So maybe I'll need to move it. But for me, it's like in the end of July. And I hope to take 10 people and to start with it, maybe max 15. It depends on how can we really, if it's from the same company or not. Sometimes it's like a team from the same company. It's much easier than different companies. So I want to take up to 15 people and to go through this process that are already done with like hundreds of startups all over the world, just to help them create something, test it out, and have something tangible and say, okay, we can reinvent our values for our clients in order to really survive this COVID-19. In some cases, it's only like, let's stay stable and not go down. Sometimes we need to survive because it's really changing. And sometimes it's like, let's grow from the opportunity, but you need to change according to the change that is like in this crisis. So I want to help them in this crisis with all my talents and knowledge, and to be like a tool for them, you know, to get what they need in order to survive and thrive in this very difficult time.
Looking at the future and based on your experience, what do you see is going to happen in the, let's say, 3 to 5 years?
Wow. Like 3 years in tech is like, wow. Most of the companies I work with, it's like, let's plan a year ahead. It's like, yeah, it's too much. But let's imagine what could be in 3 to 5 years. 10 is like, no way, I cannot. It's like too hard for me. Let's say 3 to 5 years. I'm sure there are several things that will happen. First, we can already see that AI is really growing. And we see that lots of the projects and jobs and definitions that people would have done till now will be done by a machine or an AI. So that's one, and the workplace will change accordingly. So we currently see that people are working part-time virtually within the company, outside the company, as an employee, as a part-time employee, as a freelancer. In general, freelancing is going up and up in all over the world. We'll see more and more people working like in the gig economy and so forth. So we'll see that more. And I think that the way that people will understand technology will be much different, because one of the things that I've been doing is AI and voice, and you see like voice technology getting more and more prominent, and people are using it very, very naturally, and they're getting better and better. So right now you could talk to them freely, but it's more than that. They could just understand you. They would understand your feelings. They understand your thoughts even. And more than that, they could express thoughts and I wouldn't say thoughts, but feelings maybe. Because currently what we see in voice, for example, that will surely grow out of COVID. You can just imagine what voice and health could do together, because you don't want to touch anything. Everything is sterile. So it has so much value for them. But in general, voice right now is only perceiving your voice, and you're the human. But you can just imagine if they could express feelings through their voice. Currently, when you talk to Alexa or to Siri, it's very flat. It's like a very, I would say, practical talk. It's not an emotional talk, because they are very flat in the way they're talking. But they could do much more with connecting with you as a person. And you can just imagine what that means, that you have the same assistant, and it doesn't have to be Alexa, Siri, or Cortana or whatsoever. And you have the same assistant that you choose, and he's in your office, if you have an office. It's in your home, it's in your car. Wherever you go, you have this companion, you have this friend going with you. So the connection with technology will be so much different. When you just imagine, like when I was a kid, nobody had a PC in their home. Like who had, like, it was like very, very uncommon to have a PC in your house. And currently you have it all around. You have so many devices and gadgets and iPads and iPhones and whatsoever. And you see that the connection is growing. So AI is growing. The gig economy is growing, the freelancing is growing, so people are working differently, and we see more connection with technology. It's not only dependence, that we are dependent, of course, we see that we are dependent with technology. It's really a connection, that you would really love to connect with technology and not only through technology. And I'm sure it's going to happen. And you see it already, like the speakers are the fastest growing technology in humankind. So it took like 3 years to get to 50% of the households in the US. And it took 7 years for the iPhone to do the same. So if we're just doing the comparison, so it's all here. And I always love to learn about new technologies. And currently, for me, I'm very intrigued and curious to see what are the opportunities we have right now. Although it's a big crisis, and I don't want to make it like it's all like pink, because it's not. It's a big crisis. But you always can see in the glass, do you see the full part or not? And I try to see the part that you can grow from. Okay, so for me, the full part is very important to see what are the opportunities that are merging, like growing from here. And for sure, like half a year from now, you'll see many things like changing, like for sure. Like I'm not talking only about tourists and education and I know health for sure. There are so many things like sports, entertainment, so many things that are related to our daily life that will change. And some of it will be a good change, I guess. I guess.
As we get towards the end of the show, let's hear a practical tip that you want to share with the viewers of this program.
I will talk about uncertainty, because I think that's the biggest thing we could talk about today. When I was a kid, I had epilepsy. And like when you have epilepsy, you totally need to be connected to uncertainty. You will never know when you get the seizure or attack, and you don't know it. So I grew up like in Israel, a very happy kid, but I had this like change in plans, I would say. And I learned that you need to be connected to uncertainty and sometimes even really used to it. And as I grew up, I told myself, okay, in my career, I'm going to go to the straight way, very sure way. I will learn. I get my first degree in design, second degree in cognitive science. I went to a very good position. I stayed there, and I went for I want to be sure on that. And then one day I got fired, and it was like, it was a shock. Like I was fired. I was sure like I'm a very perfectionist, but it was shock for me. And then it was like it was on a maternity leave. So I have two kids then, and the older one was like 2.5, and the small one was like 4 months old. And I looked at them and said, what would I do? It's like, it's an unexpected change. What can I do with it? And at first I was like very stressed out. And then I met a mentor. He helped me to understand this. First, you know how to do uncertainty because you lived with it so many years. So get connected to this ability first. And all through the years from then, I'm really connected to it. And I'm very like, I'm trying to get that in my system, that unpredictability is a good thing because this is what we have in life. And he helped me go with all the skills and the fact that I love to learn. And from there, I only grew. So my career went up from this stage, and which was a crisis for me. And from there, I only grew because I went to work with so many companies all over the world and do workshops and to teach and to help so many companies and startups and so forth. And it started with this crisis in my life. So I always want to think about it like you need to embrace uncertainty and try things out on your way in order to get better, to grow. And sometimes a crisis, when you see it like hindsight, when you look like what happened, you know that you grew from it, and it's a good thing. So I hope that our listeners and viewers could sometimes be connected to that, and not only to the fearful or anxious side, which is, you see it like, I'm anxious and sometimes too, because when I think like so many things are going to change, what's going to happen? But when you think like, yeah, so many things are going to change, like, yeah, it's going to, I'm curious to see what's going to change. And I really, I trust people to do their best and to grow from it, even if it's very hard at first. So that's how I see it.
Embracing uncertainty. I think that's a great way to bring closures to our interview. But before we leave, just a couple of things. What's the best way people can reach out, people who want to continue the discussion further? What's the best way to reach out?
So first, you can go to invincibleinnovation.com and see what I've been doing and about the program. Second, I always love people to get connected with me. You can just write me an email. We'll leave the email here, and you get connected with me. And if you want and if you're interested in the program, we have a special coupon for you. So just use it. And I would love to hear what you think. And I always love to listen to people who are doing innovation and learn from them. So you're very much invited.
Excellent. And I think this is where we bring about the bonus, the discount that you promised.
Yeah, sure. So the program is for only 15 people. And usually innovation, as you might know, is not done in one. So usually more than one from each company will come with me. So if you're the first one, will pay full, but the second one will pay 30%. But because I want to make tech more diverse and women is so like, they should be more prominent in our lives, in our leadership, in our tech for sure. So if the person that you're coming is your team member that is coming with you is a woman, it's 50% just for you, because it's really important for me. And I hope that you won't get offended if you're a male, but if you're a female, I want you with me. So that's what I'm giving.
I think that's a wonderful offer. So this was the interview, which was part of the In Conversation with Industry Expert. And today we were joined by Adi Mazor Kario, who is an expert in value creation. So I would like to thank Adi again for taking part in this interview.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. It was lots of fun. Thank you for having me.
If you found value in this interview, then don't forget to press the like button, as well as share this with your friends, colleagues, and your network. We have created this interview series as part of creating mass awareness on the power of digital innovation. And I would really appreciate that if you could share it with your network, if you could spread the word around so that more and more people can get benefited from the power of digital innovation. And also don't forget to subscribe it so that you can be aware of the next interviews as they come along. With that, I would like to bring about a closure to the program, and I hope to see you again in our next program. Till such time, have a great day, and bye-bye.